I don't know. I had a meltdown last Friday, and you
Oh,
know, yeah, Tim Pool, I noticed had one last June or this last June. Uh oh, what the heck is that? Anyway, yeah, he's got the same sentiments as I do about people not doing anything. And as you know, People's Awareness Coalition, or PAC, has been about getting activated for the last 20 years. And we find that people aren't willing to put the effort forth. So I guess that's what we're going to be talking about today, how people could and should get involved. And we're about action, and it's all peaceful. It's not even about protesting per se, but everything we do is grounded in law, so it's not political. It is political to a point, but what we do is recognized in law, and it could change the system. But we do it by not voting because that's a waste of time. Anyway, with that, why don't you tell people how you've been activated the last couple 3 years? It's probably been about four, hasn't it,
yeah,
since
more
you
or less.
ran into PAC? Why don't you get into that a little bit?
I mean, if you
To
want to talk about running into pack, I ran into
Yeah,
pack almost 9 years ago,
okay,
and I was a little stupid still that I didn't follow through with what pack had to offer. Whereas I was cherry picking, as most people do. What sounds good over here sounds good over here. Oh, that sounds good over there. So they cherry pick
right,
and they don't realize they're in a muddled mess of stuff that sounds like law, but it can't be anything further from the truth. So currently, I have people contacting me through email and other avenues, and I keep reminding myself when I read these people's objectives, they sound like I did when I first started, where their heart's in the right place, but they're just getting bogged down with all the muddled mess out there that has been created by all the disinformation, all the conspiracy theories, where, yeah, it sounds good, but it doesn't really have true remedy to it. Whereas PAC, when you get onto the PAC side, you offer remedy. Bottom line, there's remedy here. And it's all
yes,
lawful. And it's all bound to law. So that lawful remedy, I like to refer to it as the house that no one lives in. Is everybody lives by their legalities and under fraud under the 14th Amendment. And the Republic is the house that no one lives in. And
yeah.
that's
That's actually language by Lee Brobst, and I ran into his material back in the '90s, late '90s. I actually discovered what needed to be done before I ran into his material, and he wrote a paper that basically went over a lot. It took me a few couple years to fully understand some of the things he was saying, but his most notable position was what I called correction of nationality, because they stole that with the 14th Amendment aspects. But he called it expatriation because that's what the law that was put in place to allow the remedy for the unlawfulness of what happened with Reconstruction. So, it was unison, and it made me happy because it was right in line with what I already discovered myself. Someone didn't have to tell me what was done. I discovered it myself, and here's a guy that backed up the principle. But I took it a step further, and because of the nationality issue, he never ever went into that. And if you look at the Communist Manifesto, one of the things of communism is doing away with countries and nationalities. And prior to the Civil War, the states were referred to as countries as a matter of law, and they're also nations, so they carry a nationality. and nothing except the political spin or BS that's put out under the 14th Amendment and whatever has gone on in the last 150 years, there is nothing in the Constitution that negates that fact. So that's the foundation of my work and what's going on. And so continue with what you were saying about
that's
what
why
you had found.
Well, that's why I guess it's uncovering the cover of the Reconstruction Amendments. I mean, they're like toying with us by calling it that, the Reconstruction Amendments. And what did it reconstruct? It reconstructed the de jure form of government, did it not?
Yes.
So if that's the case, the old system is still intact. It's just nobody decides to drop the veil of willful ignorance and think that this can be remedied. Everybody thinks that, oh, you can't fight the government. You can't fight the government. I hear that all the time. Well,
yep.
I'd rather fight the government than bow to Satan.
Yeah. Yeah, your dad basically said that this last week when we were talking. So.
Yeah. Well, are you
yeah,
talking?
You're a good team of people there in Ohio. Most people have abandoned me or disrespected me over the last 20 years. And, it's funny. I was talking with Bruce on the station here, Bruce McDonald. He's got a program in the mornings during the week. And he said, you'll find that most people won't treat you properly. And it was interesting to hear him say that because, that they act like this whole thing's my fault and I'm supposed to come up with all the remedies and things, but self-government and what goes along with it is about each individual, and each man and woman has to do their own thing. I'm just here to guide them and help them on what to do in regards to their lives. But as we've discovered, basically, let's go back to the first paper I wrote that really founded People's Awareness Coalition. And it's called Human Resource Disgust. And that can be found at pacandlaw.us/HR if you want to read it. It was a simple email I sent out to a bunch of corporations, human resource departments, or businesses also. And that was the founding, act of People's Awareness Coalition, because that's something that I had determined that was a bad thing. And since then, the last 20 years or so, people have looked into the issue. There's been a documentary made or two, but no one really covers that. Matter of fact, there's a guy named Mr. Reagan that is on YouTube, and he thinks human resources are still okay, but he's still politically lost. And of course, you have the people like Tim Pool that talk about being woke. Being woke means being woken up, but it's really not. It's a commandeering of the movement from what was going on 20 years ago. And like I've discussed before, that the movement was commandeered about 10 years ago via social media. And, movements like Aaron Rousseau's Freedom to Fascism. They took the law movement and changed it into a political movement. And that's 180 degrees from where PAC was established and based in its truth.
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how can you be awoke? If
only I don't know.
Well, if the only thing you know is Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, there's 3 more sections that people do not understand the context of. So when they say
the
woke,
people that I was just talking about don't understand Section 1.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. Even what they believe that they understand about Section 1 is complete blasphemy, in my opinion. I mean, to me, the 14th Amendment did away with due process, not create due process.
Well, it created a new one. And it had to do with agencies. Agencies are totally Marxist. part of the Marxist system.
Right, because they work on their policy, which is private law.
Yeah, it's private law based on state and federal government, and it created another layer of law, which basically my mentor taught me about. I mentioned administrative law in my book, but I didn't go into it because it really is the key to understanding how to deal with a system. But my mentor didn't go into how to totally destroy this system. You know, he talked about the Social Security number quite a bit, but he didn't get into the status correction, matters, which is paramount, or light years above just fighting the private law that they put in place to handle U.S. citizens.
They all correlate each
other. What was that? Yeah, it's all correlated, but
right.
The agencies are what were put forth to handle Marxism. It's our socialism.
Right. It keeps
the foundation for communism. So, which most people don't even know what communism is. It's all mixed together. I mean, you can't really say the United States is fascist or socialist or communist or capitalist, because every element is involved in what the government is.
They're insurgents.
Well, yeah, the government's insurgent based on the 14th Amendment.
Right.
It wasn't lawfully ratified, and the people that are participating are the rebels, or the insurgents is a lesser term, but they're the ones that are having to ratify the amendment themselves by participation.
Well, I may have a good friend listening right now that I'm going to address this point right now so he can listen to it over the air, is the fact that he believes that sovereignty still resides with the states currently under the 14th Amendment system. And what he doesn't realize is once the states accept the privileges and immunities clause of Section 1 14th Amendment, that means they're incorporated under the federal government and they're under federal rule.
Yes.
So every state that takes the privileges of the federal government, there is no sovereignty. Now, that sovereignty can be rekindled at any given moment and any given second. It just takes masses of people to do this.
Correct.
And the sovereignty is only within the land of the state. That is the sovereign body.
But, the 14th Amendment, I call it a communist association. Private law is based on private membership, and the 14th Amendment, some idiots out there the last few years have been saying 14th Amendment wasn't ratified. Well, no, it wasn't lawfully ratified pursuant to Article 5 of the Constitution, but people are ratifying it themselves individually. So it doesn't matter what the Article 5 provision is.
Speaking of the ratification, though, don't you think it's symbolic that the what it was ratified under was 2/3 of Congress, and if you divide 2/3 into itself, it's the 666 mantra once again?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, it keeps coming back up. I mean, how can you dismiss that?
Yeah, that's what they put in the Constitution for ratification. But the 14th Amendment, here's the thing: the 13th Amendment was, questionable, and the Civil War supposedly handled that. Okay, emancipation of the slaves, but I believe Lincoln was killed because he didn't go along with the 14th Amendment, and that's what really screwed things up. It wasn't really necessary to do the 14th Amendment because that's what really changed government. It pulled people into the control of Congress. Like I generally like to say, that if it wasn't for the 14th Amendment, there'd be no one in federal prison.
Well, at what point did the Reconstruction Amendments become labeled as Reconstruction Amendments?
Why did they call them that? Because that's
at what point?
At what point?
Yeah, at what point
did they call them that? I think they were called that right away. I don't think it took any period of time.
Wasn't the 13th Amendment written 2 years before the 14th
Oh, yeah.
Amendment?
There was a period of time that all of them were applied or implemented. So
I guess my point is, did they call the Reconstruction Amendments or the Reconstruction Amendments after the 14th? or
Yeah,
before.
probably. Yes, I haven't looked at the exact date, but Reconstruction was a thing that they called government usurpation at that time, or changeover. But yeah, they probably got the Reconstruction Acts and the Reconstruction Amendments were probably called that soon after. That's one fact I can't answer properly when the
Well,
exact date happened.
you
It
know,
really doesn't matter.
well, it would matter only on the simple fact that if we had a pack army, there'd be a bunch of people looking it up right now.
Well, they can look it up if they want to look into that, but I'm just saying it's really not important what they're called
Oh yeah, I get it.
technically,
But
because that's a political term anyway, or historical term, and that's what I think many people have heard. The victor writes the history, the victor of war. So all the stuff that we've heard the last 150 years is basically political propaganda that supports what they've done. So it's half truths and lies and deception. So really anything they've done is purely political in regards to historical explanations.
so people have been really gullible for a long time now.
Yes, and it's understandable to a point. I've said for years that where's what People's Awareness Coalition has done back 150 years ago. Right after the war, there should have been several folks of all the states questioning what was going on, and starting what we started 20 years ago back then, but it never happened. There was a lot of deception and, like I just said, the propaganda for the amendment was even flying around back in the 90s when I got into the movement. That's why I had to do my own research to sort it out. So there was a lot of disinformation that was going on. Anyone that brought up the 14th Amendment, for example, you were a racist.
Oh, you're chastised.
Yeah.
Still,
It's the biggest joke there is, man. If you read my material, the biggest thing the 14th Amendment did is give corporations more power. And just like I've realized when I had my business, if you have a corporation, you better have a bunch of money to pay lawyers, because that's all they're good for is to pay lawyers. Just like any law issue. I was talking to Mike Gaddy this last month, and he said, yeah, where did Dred Scott, that's the foundation or the excuse for the 14th Amendment, where did Dred Scott get all the money to pay all these lawyers that established that case to, basically give power or the reason to put the 14th Amendment in place? The point is, anytime the elite wants something done, they'll fund it. Just like we saw with Brett Kavanaugh's confirmational hearing, what was that, 2 years ago already, with that Christy Blasey Ford and all the nonsense that went on.
right.
They put on this big dog and pony show, the elites, and that's what they do then, cause emotional confusion and an excuse to make a political move. And that's what they did with Dred Scott. He was nothing but a case to do what they've done. Yeah, I've been saying lately that if I were black, I'd dread Dred Scott, because if you look at what transpired, Title 42, 1981 is very scary if you read it correctly, about what they've sucked them into, the so-called slaves. Another thing I realized that I didn't think about much in the past about what happened between, with these two reconstructions, or the three Reconstruction amendments they put in place to kind of make a facade or confuse people, is, well, the 15th Amendment, which gave supposedly gave the slaves' rights the right to vote doesn't do that at all, because the language says they shall not be denied the right to vote, which means the 14th Amendment gave them the right to vote. So that's a facade or just nonsense that they put in place.
The 14th Amendment gave slaves the right to vote.
Yeah, everyone the right to vote. And that's one of the things that was unclear when I got into this. People were saying, oh, the 14th Amendment was for black people or the ex-slaves. And I go, really? I go, are there two elections? Are there two elections, that they hold when blacks vote for their people and white people vote for their people? Or others or whatever. And that's not true. Everyone votes in the same elections. So it's the same body politic. But so that's what my book and my work it straightened out. And of course, they don't like that because they have 140, 30 or 40 years of BS they were feeding people, not only through law schools and propaganda in general, but in the movement, people hadn't figured it out. So yeah, it was pretty disgusting. I thought that they got away with it for so long.
Well, they're still getting away with it right now, LB.
Oh, they're getting away with it more than ever because they got everyone voting now. It's like that's how everyone's enslaved by this system.
But how are they going to, besides reading your book, you can't find an explanation on Section 2, 3, or 4 of the 14th Amendment anywhere on the internet.
No, you can't. I saw one thing that was mentioned about Section 2 at one time by some judge, but they didn't touch what I touched. And, these idiots, I don't know if you're paying attention, but Trump signed an executive order based on Section 2 of the amendment that was perverted by the 2010 census in Obama. And I wrote a paper on that. If you want to download it, it's at packinlaw.us/census. And I go into how it was just a farce. I mean, Obama overturned 40 years worth of sound reading or interpretation of Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. And, it's just ridiculous. And of course, the communist or the Marxist are saying that Trump's a Nazi and all this stuff and whatever. But it's really sad that these people on social media or the alternative media even get away with what they say because it's unsound. And there's no real professionals I shouldn't even say that because the law schools don't even teach law. They teach false applications and the system in a sense. They don't really teach law.
It's completely based upon legal fictions.
Yeah, legal fictions are something that are not true, but they're presumed to be true based on no evidence to prove otherwise. So, yeah, that's another thing people have screwed up in the movement. They call the federal or government a legal fiction, and it's not there. It can put you in jail. Those cells they put you in are real.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, there's just so much crap out there on the internet. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's how they get control of us, everyone.
It is.
And giving you. But that's where I'm getting ready to say people don't understand the difference between rights and freedoms versus privileges and immunities. And that's what I try to strike home with every person that I talk to. I'm like, do you know the difference between rights and freedoms versus privileges and immunities? Because you only have privileges and immunities as a U.S. citizen. You don't have rights and freedoms. Mm-hmm. That's the big smoke screen that they teach you from when you're wee high to a lad in kindergarten. You're learning the Pledge of Allegiance and all the other Marxist indoctrinations, and nothing about it is tied back to any type of freedom or rights, even though they keep telling you you have the right to do this, you got the right to do that. No, everybody, it's a privilege or an immunity, and that is what the 14th Amendment, Section 1, Sentence 2, clearly defines. If they want
an immunity can be determined to be a right, even a natural right in some cases. So immunity is not all that bad in some cases. There's a term that a lot of people were using, and that term is exempt. And exempt in code basically means the code applies to you, but for some reason or another, you're exempt from it, but you're not immune, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we got a break here, Nathan.
Okay.
This is the Ultimate Remedy. This is LB Bork. We'll be back after these station announcements. Stay tuned for more of what the purpose of People's Awareness Coalition is about.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Your body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
Find some comfort at Willow's World. A variety of news, commentary and poetry at Willow's Poetry Corner, where there are comfy cushions and a tempting selection of delectable comestibles. A show that's quirkily and quintessentially British, with a unique twist featuring Willow Andreasen, your host. Join Willow Mondays and Thursdays, 2 till 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Studio A.
All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Yeah, this is Ultimate Remedy. My name is LB Bork. Thanks for joining us. Today is August 4th, 2020. Glad you could join us here. We're talking with Nathan, and we're talking about People's Awareness Coalition. And we're also talking about why the movement I started 20 years ago doesn't work. Generally because people don't listen and they don't follow instructions, but you know, that's going to happen. And plus all the operatives out there, it's really ridiculous. You've met them on the internet, haven't you, Oh,
All
Nathan,
over.
they're all
All
over.
All over. It's a rotting cesspool out there.
Yep, it's
And I hate to
terrible.
say it like that, but I mean, granted, people got to start from somewhere, but they got to keep moving forward in the right way, not the wrong.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in the swamp and you're going to be dredging through it for the rest of your life.
It's terrible.
Oh, it really is, LB. I mean, the people that I deal with, yes, like I said earlier, they got their hearts kind of in the right place. They really do. They just don't understand how to separate the political banter and rhetoric that is associated to nothing. And they keep talking in circles like a cat chasing its tail. Nothing gets done, and we sit here and complain about the same thing over and over and over again. Or you could open up a law book and start reading what they don't want you to know. Otherwise, they'd teach it.
Yeah, you got a bunch of trolls in the chat room today, so
Do you?
dealing with that. What? Yeah, they're all over the place. Once we start this new operation that we have going, which I'm not going to release the information today, but it's going to get worse. These guys have not gained the territory that they have, or held the grounds that they've done without having operatives out there the last 150 years.
America.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, the reason these people have won is because they've got all the money. Don't you think that that's a great deal of the problem?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is. Yes, it is.
And you know, people are just comfortable in their Marxism. I wrote a paper a little while back called Your Marxism, and basically government serves evil.
Oh, man government.
Yeah, man's what man government? What do you mean?
Just any man government. That.
Oh yeah. I'd call it secular government. But if you look at what's transpired, the rich get richer is one of my terms, or principles I use. This whole system's gotten the rich richer, but the game's over. Basically, they're going to start taking people down even more so. They basically use the United States to industrialize the rest of the world and act as a model, and that's over now, and that's what this virus is about. They really caught me off guard with that. I knew they were going to do something soon after I wrote my book, and that probably accelerated things, because I've seen them dance, a different tune in the last 20 years. So it's shifted things, but these people are out there still causing problems to maintain what's going on with the New World Order, to thwart what we've tried to do in the last 20 years. So, it's really difficult to determine what's going to happen. And like I said, the virus, it caught me off guard, because I would have figured it out. I've been watching, the movies and the propaganda they put out for years. And if you've looked at, what they've done with the virus movies over the past 30 years or so, they were programming Americans to accept this virus years ago, or for the last 30 or 40 years even. So, that's part of why all these people out there are just nuts about people wearing the mask. And what this is meant to do is destroy the economy that much more, and put all the profits into the hands of a few elite. And as people have noticed, a lot of small businesses are going down, and that was the main purpose for communism, and to unify workforce and put the middle class out of business.
Well, one thing I'm going to elaborate on what you're saying right there is one thing that came to me is that I don't believe they can bring about the new world order and the new world system by leaving any wealth in the old system. There could be no carryover of wealth from the old system to the new system.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're still stuck in the old system, and I know they want a new world order and a new world system, so they just can't leave any wealth in the old system.
No, the age of Aquarius can go two ways. It can get worse, and the world feudal system will expand, or people can put an end to it.
I think we're gearing up towards that, LB.
What, put an end to it? I hope
Yeah.
so. People need to start working together.
Well, the only way that's going to happen is if people break down their veil of willful ignorance.
Yep.
And that willful ignorance is the government's number one tool to keep you enslaved. You enslave yourselves.
That's right. Getting back to Tim Pool, he understands that. I could put the video I pulled down of him and June going off the handle, man. She was mad. About as mad as I've gotten at people the last 20 years. But it's been more so the last 10 years because, like I said, the powers that be, for lack of better words, have really just commandeered everything. And, what's worse, I've talked to this about, or to other people about this problem. And, the people that are evil out there that want everything for free and aren't willing to help and do the work are basically our worst enemies than the government is.
Just another form of parasite.
Yeah, it's a different kind of parasite than what we're up against, and they're creating the problems. And that's what's created the problems more so. The sloth and evil deeds of the people out there have hindered what needed to be done 20 years ago. So yeah, back to Tim Pool, he understands these things of people, and that they won't do anything and they won't work together, and they've done nothing. The powers that be have done nothing but make this easier for them based on Twitter and Facebook. The social media has just destroyed any chance of people working together there is. And it's the best tool in history, world history, that's been put out where we could defeat these people. But people's egos and attitudes have destroyed that. And like I've said, that the Twitter platform is the Twitter platform, or the logo and its name is based on that saying, "A little bird told me," which relates to gossip.
Oh.
So this whole Twitter program is made to appeal to people's egos because they get their opinion out there, and they're just gossiping, which causes confusion and nothing gets done. And it's part of turning over the political system. Getting people involved in that and totally destroying, what I've tried to achieve. And they've done a good job, I have to say. But like I say, the people themselves that have run into my work are the worst enemy. They're worse than the government. I was going to say you really don't need too many operatives because the people are the worst ones, and the internet and the lies that are put up on the internet.
No. I believe it's, as you said when you started this talk of this is the best way that we've had in thousands of years to get the information out to the masses in a mass scale. Well, the thing is, there's a guy who's evil, who's a Luciferian, saying the exact same thing to his people, going, man, it's never been easier to spread lies, deceit, and disinformation than it is right now.
Yeah, that's right. Because there's so many people that have a voice that you don't know who you're talking to. And like I say, you think people would kind of flock around. My friend Karen, who I've talked to, she did research on me, and she was able to overcome the crap on the internet about Pac and myself, and said, "Well, you've been around 20 years and you haven't changed your message whatsoever." And I go, "No, because it's honest, it's real. If you get into like these profiteers and other people, they generally don't change their tune. Of course, people have stolen my work and perverted it. So I don't know. I don't get it myself."
Well, this comes back to PAC and what the PAC mission should be, which is to start with is 10 people who know what you know in each state, so we can start pushing the movement forward and start breaking down the barriers of the disinformation, the lies, and deceit. But those 10 people in each state, they truly have to be encompassed by Republican freedom.
Yes.
They can't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They can't be helping U.S. citizens over here and cherry picking what they want over there. They need to be completely 100% basically baptized into Republican freedom.
Well, they're into their socialism too far. You know, I know Trump said America, and other people say America will never be socialist, which is a total frickin' fraud. I have no idea where they're getting that definition from. Huh? Double speak?
Double speak.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, what's a social security number?
Socialism.
Socialism.
Right.
And it goes back further than that. Like, it goes back to the original constitutional system being put in place 230 years ago.
Look at unions. Unions are so socialistic.
They are.
Oh, hugely.
But Wisconsin was the first socialist state. It was given statehood in 1848, the same year the Communist Manifesto was released. And the people that helped write the damn thing settled in Wisconsin. I'm surprised the Wisconsin flag wasn't red.
Ohio.
But yeah, the Eugene, I think it was Eugene Debs Union or Workers Force or whatever they called it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So yeah, that ties to the Marxist systems, and that they've been around for a long time. The sickle of communism was put in place by Abraham Lincoln in 1863 with the Department of Agriculture. And again, agencies are part and parcel of the communist system in America. Communism is basically government controlling the economy. People don't know that. There's so many stories out there that, I have my own explanations, because anything you listen to out there is going to be wrong or political newspeak, like you said.
My 5-year-old son knew that.
What about the sickle?
No, about communism, and his mother asked, "Do you even know what that means?" He said, "It's an economic system."
There you go. He's learning from his dad, I'm sure.
Oh, he did. He definitely remembered that.
Yeah, the hammer of communism was installed by the rich industrialist, which is industry. If you go to the Rothschild's shield, it talks about industry. It mentions industry. So because if there's no industry, there's no profits to be made. So
I just saw that on a New Age symbol where they had the hammer, the sickle, and I want to say that the wheat and the tares were on each side of it too, which is a biblical reference that you won't know until the time of harvest of one from the other.
Yeah.
Which is the good seed versus the bad seed. But I just, I think a lot of what we talk about, LB, I think a lot of people believe that the system can be changed by voting, by all these little intangibles that they've been built up to believe Americans are free under. So they believe that the system, as the status quo is, can be like saved somehow. But in my opinion, it's got to be burnt to the ground and then built back up piece by piece, because you can't graft on a good tree to bad roots. And if the roots are ingrained into communistic Marxism, how can you ever get a good system out of a bad system? It's just not going to happen. And I believe that's where the illusion of grandeur comes in, where these people think that they can actually save something that's horribly wrong and evil, and all they're doing is throwing more evil at it. And they're turning their good heart into a bad heart because they know they can't get any remedy done that way.
There's one thing I wanted to cover with you, and you bring it up quite a bit. I don't want to mention it because people mess it up like they have everything else. You even need tutoring. I've spent quite a bit of time with you, and people think this is a cakewalk, like it's going to be easy to do. But with army of lawyers that they have for 150 years and the billions and billions of dollars that corporations face to lose, and just everything else that goes along with it. The money the lawyers make, the money the corporations make, the way the system is set up. Everyone thinks that this process and it's easy and it's going to go just like okay, yeah, you found this out. Here's your freedom papers. Congratulations. That's the way most of these people think. But that one statute I don't want to mention, but it's to deal with the one we talked about, and I kind of jump you once in a while for it, bringing it up. But that's very stealthily written, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the language in that statute that we're talking about, that I won't mention on open air because people take the work and screw it up like they have over the last 20 years. You can tell they're hiding this whole process.
Yeah, especially after I realized under the judicial misconduct for a judge in the state of Ohio and the court's officers, they have to recognize nationality.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that the other day. Like I told you, I haven't really practiced in 20 years. All our work is basically claim your status and do what you need to do. And most people aren't willing to do that. So they run into trouble. And but I've been left alone for 25 years. I even got out of a local issue that came up. They left me alone because of my track record with government. But I haven't filled out a government form for 25 years. I've been left alone. It depends but most people aren't willing to do. They won't listen to me for one thing. They have it all figured out, or whatever the case may be. And they would like to go on their own instead of working together, which I've told people about, that once we get a solid group of people in each state, we'd have a foundation where it could flourish. But until then, it needs to walk like any child. But people are so egotistical and cheap, and whatever goes along with that they're not willing to work together. Or they don't want to fund anything either.
Well, they succumb to the ideal.
They'll fund Chrissy Blasey Ford, give her $1 million to trash Brett Kavanaugh, to keep him from getting in the Supreme Court to babysit them, but they won't pay for their freedom or help fund that.
They'd rather pay Alex Jones $100,000 a day.
Oh, geez, something. Is that how much he makes?
At one point, he said he was making $100,000 a day. Yeah, I watched a whole documentary on him, and yeah, he was making some oodles of money. Where do you think
the chat room just, and I want to get into that. Chat room just said no paperwork will work at this time. Well, I don't believe that because, like I've told you, that law is all we have, and if
no paperwork at this time, what do you mean?
Well, declaring your status, and the Declaration of Independence worked What are we saying though? Chat room is the world over? They're not going to have law anymore. There's no contract. These corporations are going to just do whatever they want. That's ridiculous. Again, that's why these attitudes are why people have destroyed what I put out 20 years ago.
They're the Walking Dead, LB.
Yeah, they're Walking Dead, I guess. They don't believe, and if we don't have law, all we got is total tyranny, and they're not going to operate like that. I guarantee it. What's going on now, I talked to Bruce about this. He thinks culling is coming. They're getting rid of weak people right now. And I agree with that. I've seen what they're doing with the Democrats. The Democrats are technically, or whatever, I'm maybe making up words there, but they're basically useful idiots, okay? As you know, as we talked about many times, they flipped the stars on the Republican Party back in 2001 after 9/11 to be a satanic type pentagram. So what they've done with the Democrats is used them as useful idiots, and they've done a Hegelian dialectic type thing, a problem, reaction, solution. So what they've done, even Rush Limbaugh, my cousin told me, says this is what the powers that be do. They'll take things to an extreme, we'll say left at this point, and that's what's going on right now. And then the rulers, or the rulers of evil, as Tupper Saucy calls them, will bring things back center. And during this process, what's going on now, they're going to get rid of the weak-minded people. And that's what's going on, I believe.
Look at suicide rate right now, LB.
Yeah, it's what they're doing, and it's part of what they've said about what's said on the Georgia Guidestones. They want to get rid of people, so they're doing these things to have people check out themselves, or the virus is killing off, I believe, older people to a point. I don't believe the death rates. The whole thing's a scam. But as you and I talked about, with the patent on the COVID that's out there, I think they have the chance of electronically maybe causing more deaths in the future. But of course that won't happen because no one's really working together in unity. So this isn't going to get found out. Like I said, there's 500 people that got together, engineers, for 9/11. And do you think they have a voice in the movement anywhere, really? No, because everyone else has got their opinions, and they're chasing flat earth or whatever, things that aren't important because of the internet, and been misguided. So unfortunately, that's the way this works. Stupid people are creating the problems.
Well, yeah.
Not only the evil people in control, but stupid people are creating the problems.
The way you say it like that, I'm going to just elaborate a little bit, and I'm just going to say, to me, I'm okay with it when I say let natural selection find those people, because that's what's actually going to happen. You are going to naturally select yourself to be the next up in line for whatever the government wants to give you, because you are willfully ignorant and you think the government's your friend. So you're going to get exactly what they're going to give you.
Someone in chat just talked about the lawless government's going to follow the law. Well, it's a people's problem again. They've let this thing go to hell the last 150 years.
No one's holding their hand to the fire.
No. Well, that's right, and that's what PAC's been about for 20 years. And these weaklings will do one thing, and if it doesn't work, it didn't work. Well, great job. Way to stick to it, man.
The only reason why it didn't work is because it's the willful ignorance, once again, that they don't know as much as the judge, they don't know as much as the prosecutor, because you just haven't been taught to know that kind of stuff. They keep that away from you and make you go to work for 8 hours a day, and then you got to hire a lawyer to go do your deeds. And that's where it all goes wrong. You cannot hire someone of their own bar association to represent you within their bar association.
Well, you saw the case that I sent you based on jurisdiction, and if you have a lawyer, you've already committed to being in personam or personal jurisdiction to the case. In fact,
right.
I have an important thing to go over that we kind of skipped over and got rabbit trailed on.
Okay.
We'll hit it after the top of the hour. We got a commercial break.
What is it?
Coming up. I'll tell you after the break, but it's important. It's based on a couple things we went over and didn't finish.
Okay.
Stay tuned, folks. We got a break coming up. This is The Ultimate Remedy. This is Revolution Radio. See you in 5 minutes or so.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Now we're back. This is The Ultimate Remedy. This is Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com or revolution.radio on the web. I want to thank you all for joining us. Today is August 4th already, 2020. year's going very fast. I plan on serving my book to government in the next few months as a legal notice. And I had a couple comments in chat and sent to me in Skype I want to go over in regard to law and legal. But before that, yes, this is listener supported back to Revolution Radio. It's listener supported. Need your help. If you could go to the web page and find the donation button, click on that. Could really use the funds to help this this service that's free to everyone to listen, but it runs off donations. There's no commercials. And as far as I know, the management still will not receive advertisers that will tell them what to do or what can be said. And as you know, social media is doing that. And that's how, one of the reasons I won't go on there anymore, because they basically, there is no free speech based on the Marxist system and the way it operates. And Marxism isn't what people think it is. It's basically a system to destroy small business and put all control and profits into the hands of a few elite. And that's what my work has been centered on for the last 20 years, 25 years I've researched it. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that people are hitting on, but no one, you know, people have been getting off the grid for a long time, but they haven't been off the law grid, and they're still subject. And when it comes down to brass tacks, that's going to be the protection. And as we talked about a little bit last hour, people think that paper doesn't matter, but that's ridiculous. Because if you look at the United Nations, for example, one of the first private law agreements is on display there, and it's one that's mentioned in the Bible by the tribe. I think it's the Hittite tribe, and the Pharaoh of Egypt at the time. It goes back like 3,500 years, I believe the treaty is. And so the law of nations and international law is predominant, and that's what they recognized. And like I tried to say, or I referenced last hour, that if we don't have law, we don't have anything. And what George Bush said in 1990-91, when he addressed the UN and Congress, he says, we go by the rule of law, not the law of the jungle. And these guys do follow the law. I've seen it. And the people that say they don't follow the law are the problem, because they don't know the law and they don't know how to enforce it. And I've been crapped on for 20 years now based on that kind of attitude. And like I said last hour, the reason PAC isn't where it should have been, what's going on now could have been stopped if people weren't assholes and stuck with it. They're slothful and lazy, and that's the problem. And I do have the remedy. I know how to drive this through the courts and even challenge the current system and a lot more. But until I get the support, you need money to do this, folks. So until I get the support that Nathan, for example, gives me, or the monetary means to get this pushed through, it's not going to happen.
I'm only one person.
Yeah. I'm only one person. Nathan's been the most solid person I've seen in 20 years.
Thank you for
and
that.
His parents are with me too, and they're solid because they get it. Like I said, Tim Pool, he gets the laziness and stupidity of people, but he doesn't get, he's been born, or he's a product of what I was saying last hour. He's been, sucked into this political vortex, which is communism, and he doesn't understand it yet, but we're going to change that soon.
This is like the good version of the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Because I think the yin and the yang is pretty much tied to Luciferian ideals and traits. But if there was ever a good one, what I'm about to say is, you not only do you have to know the law, but you also have to know the spiritual side. You can't have one without the other. Both of them go neck and neck with each other. And if you're not spiritual, that's one thing that me and my family had prior to this, is we had a belief in Yahuwah, God, that he's our protector. He already is our king. But everybody always wants to make the presumption that that's only payable on death, where then you get to go meet your creator. Well, I beg to differ. You're stuck here on this earth right now. Why should the Luciferians control and own the earth? They shouldn't. It's not theirs.
Yes.
They're vagabonds.
Yes. Anyway, a couple people, actually, me in chat mentioned it, and another guy from, it's funny, me's from Canada, and so was the other guy that mentioned this. They wanted to bring up law versus legal and the legal system. So I wanted to touch on that. Before we do that, let's get in. There we go again. So Canadians are smarter than Americans. The Americans are just a really joke. All they do is give me crap for the most part, know it all. And the culling's coming, believe me. But anyway, what I was getting at in this last couple weeks, we've been researching the canons that are directed at the judicial, right? Nathan, you looked at it in Ohio.
Yes.
And I said last hour, I haven't done much practice the last 20 years because I can't get people to listen, okay? I can't even get them to the point of doing what you've done. They've abandoned me based on, the drive-up window at the law department didn't work. They didn't listen to me. So that's what's gone on quite a bit the last 20 years, unfortunately. And plus the distractions with operatives and whatever. So, this thing hasn't gotten off the ground, and we're talking about People's Awareness Coalition today. So our objectives, I've been around 25 years and haven't gone anywhere. That's another thing I don't understand, getting back to what I mentioned about Karen last hour. I've been around 25 years and I haven't changed my message, and I'm doing the same thing, and I'm still here. And if anyone knows me, and Nathan does, because he came and actually visited with me. He knows I'm not rich. So I'm either doing this because I'm stupid or I'm in it for the right reason.
You got a good heart.
Well, I've got spiritual grounds, which most people don't have. They're riding the train with Satan or evil, so they don't get it. But back to what we discovered when I was doing this back in the 90s, and I was, I turned judges into the Judicial Commission for Misconduct. And we had a issue this last week that we had to do that, which caused Nathan to go into the judicial conduct of Ohio. And he found in there, oddly enough, that wasn't in there, Arizona is what I looked at or dealt with at the time, but he found that these people must obey a person's nationality in legal proceedings or law proceedings, whatever
what it's
call them at this point. What
it's written under, just to be exact about this, is where they define that they can't be prejudiced or harass or create biasness based upon political affiliation or nationality.
Right.
Those are the two that jump out at me as being a state national to my Republic of Ohio, is that they cannot be prejudiced or harass you based upon your nationality.
That did not exist before I came out with my work in 2000. When did that appear, do we think, in the judicial conduct?
There was a time in 2012 that they amended, and a time in 2001 they amended, and then they just amended again July 1st, 2020. So there's 3 amended dates that I really don't know when it actually showed up because I can't actually see what it was prior to because they don't give you that access. You kind of like block it out.
Yep. Well, the timing's unreal. Because that's a couple years after I came out with my book that exposed all this. And also, police state wasn't mentioned in, I'm not saying my work really prompted this, but I believe the judicial average or, notice nationality did, because it was basically hidden until my work hit the scene. And another thing, I was very impressed to see a Christian law college, somebody used some of my paperwork or my writings to, he referenced them in his thesis a few years back. And I don't scan the internet that much because it's pretty much, I don't need to for the most part. But yeah, I did find that looking at my work this last month. So I guess the main point is my work is making an impact. But the thing that's lacking right now is these people that badmouth things in general. And like I said just a minute ago, I had 2 good comments, and we'll go into that in a minute, about the legal and law system. The 2 good comments I've seen in chat, or I've gotten referenced to, are from Canadians. So I don't know, Americans are pathetic. And I don't know. Like I said, I had a meltdown last Friday, and then I found out Tim Poole had one in June of similar respect, and it all deals with Americans and how stupid they are and arrogant. And like Mike Gaddy says, it's not that Americans are ignorant, it's how proud they are of being ignorant.
They're a Meritopia.
Yeah, well, it's bad, and if they don't get their act together, it's not going to get any better. So, but anyway, yeah, the difference between law and legal, and me said that it's funny because I just wrote something. I can post it in chat again. But he said the legal system is made to usurp the law, and he's absolutely right. And that's what's happened with the 14th Amendment for the most part. It's put a legal system over the constitutional system, which operates a whole lot different. And as you noted last hour, as we talk about quite a bit, it's based on private law. It's by agreement. And if people are taking benefit of the system or they're ignorant and don't know how it works, they're going to get thrashed by the system. And that's what's going on. And, the Republican Freedom Statement by Justice Black that he made in, what was it, the 1960s, I believe, late 1960s. It's one of my favorites. You found a better case for it. I don't even know did he make that quote, Nathan?
Yeah, he made the quote, yes.
Yeah, the one I've been using, it was out of another case, and it was incomplete, but the best part of it was there. So I'm looking for that right now.
I'm looking for it too.
It's a good one. It's one I use for promotion or making people aware that they're slackers, and the problem is theirs, and based on non-unity and people not working together, this is why there's still problems. This is why there are still problems. If you want to read that whole thing, go ahead.
Justice Black, quote, "Where would we really find the principal danger to civil liberty in a republic? Not in the governors as governors, not in the governed as governed, but in the governed unequipped to function as governors. The chief enemies of Republican freedom are mental sloth, conformity, bigotry, superstition, credulity, monopoly in the market of ideas, and utter benighted ignorance, relying as it does on the consent of the governed, representative government cannot succeed unless the community receives enough information to grasp public issues and make sensible decisions. As lights which may have been enough for the past do not meet the needs of the present. So present lights will not suffice for the more extensive and complex problems of the future. Heretofore, public enlightenment may have been only a manifest desiderium. Today, it constitutes an imperative necessity. The First Amendment, says Justice Black, reflects the faith that a good society is not static but advancing, and that the fullest possible interchange of ideas and beliefs is essential to attainment of this goal.
Yes, very complete. One of the first definitions that we discovered when I was studying law with a group in Arizona 25 years ago was the definition of public in a law dictionary. And we used Ballantyne's Law Dictionary. It's not the standard of the what do you want to call it? What do they call it? The legal industry, law industry? The law industry, by attorneys. It was funny because I had these leather bound, full dictionaries, and most of these public defenders and other attorneys in the courts were running around with these paperback abridged type dictionaries. So it just goes to show you they really don't study law or know law that well. And that's what the people get, like George Carlin said years ago, garbage in, garbage out about the citizens. Well, these attorneys that run things are, their heads are full of garbage, and people haven't held their feet to the fire. I'm saying this intently because I know it to be a problem. It's the people's fault. Don't blame the government. That's why there's a mess right now. Anyway, the definition of public is, this is from a court case, the quote anyway, public, the populace, the community. And this quote's from a case here. That vast multitude, which includes the ignorant, the unthinking, and the credulous, who in making purchases do not stop to analyze, but are governed by appearance and general impressions. That's out of Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, 3rd edition.
Wow.
And it kind of mocks or mirrors, rather, or echoes what you just said. Those not in the public this is what I use as reference. Those not in the public. And I'm private myself. But anyway, i.e. those living under Republican freedom, e.g. non-voters, those not on government dole, etc. And I like to use the words that you just noted. The chief enemies of Republican freedom are mental sloth, conformity, bigotry, superstition, credulity, monopoly in the market of ideas, and utter benighted ignorance. Citing Justice Black, Adderley versus State of Florida, and that was the court citing what you just cited or noted. So that was in 1967 that was used. But you can basically say that the courts have determined that the American public are a bunch of lazy, shiftless people. And so I get really upset when I hear the government doesn't follow the law. It's that they're not following the law possibly on a lower level is because the people have not learned it to make sure they understand it. And if they do understand it, it's because the people that go into court don't know what they're doing. So I don't like hearing that they don't follow the law. They do. I've seen it happen. I've seen it. And yes, they will just try to deceive you. You know that, Nathan.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't deny that at all. They always are trying to deceive you in any which way they possibly can.
Yep. Anyway, law is, there's some people, let's talk about the law and legal now. The law is basically a foundation. They even call the Bible law, which it's kind of weak in a sense because it's not the law of all peoples. The only law that I find that's very, very relevant out of the Bible is what Christ said, or Jesus, or Yeshua, as we like to call him, Nathan, right. Is love your neighbor as you do yourself. That's the only law you really need to know for spiritual, principle and to live by. Everything would work out if everyone in the world followed that one simple rule.
There's that one. I'm going to add one thing to that: is a perfect religion unto God is basically the mighty being able to protect the widows, women, and children.
Well, that's part of loving your neighbor as yourself.
That's what I was getting at when he says religion. That I have found in my biblical endeavors that the only time religion is used in a good sense is under that definition that I just gave.
Exactly. That is the religion of the New Testament. And it's doing exactly what Christ said about loving your neighbor. So it's very simple. And, I've told people about this on the internet or whatever, that, you people are mixing what the Catholic Church does or any goofy religious or so-called Christian denomination do based on the Bible, and you're not looking at the simplicity of where the law really comes from and the story itself.
Right.
And you and me talked about Jefferson this morning, but you didn't know there was a Jefferson Bible.
Oh, I did not. I mean, I knew.
So basically, he just pulled out what Christ said or Jesus out of the Bible, and he said this guy was a moral man, and his work should be entertained and followed.
Right.
So, I find Jefferson to be one of the best founding fathers that got notoriety and, had anything really good to say. I know Mike Gaddy, for example, likes Patrick Henry. I'm sorry, had a mind blank there for a minute, but he basically didn't get notoriety because he didn't become involved in government. He was more anti-federalist and kind of went by the wayside after the Federalists took over the United States and started perverting it to the New World Order system that exists today. And of course, the anti-federalists fought against that, and we've talked about that for about a year on the show now, our program, Ultimate Remedy, what we're doing today, folks, again, is getting back to PAC. So,
something,
that's what we have to work on now. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're going to be serving my book to Congress, which is going to be a public notice based on, tearing apart their plausible deniability. And, hopefully it starts to push things. Like I've mentioned in the past few weeks, I revisited or looked at The Gladiator by Ridley Scott recently again. And if you look at that or go back and look at the movie, Caesar wanted to return Rome back to the Republic from the empire that was developed. And there's some truth in, to what happened. But, Caesar in that, in that respect was going to do it. Okay. And his evil son killed him because of that. And of course, the gladiator played by, what was his name? I forget his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was put in place or in charge as part of the Roman army to make sure that happened. But I guess my point is it's not going to happen because right now the so-called Caesar of the United States, or the president, Trump in this case, is controlled by the rich people that run the world. And it's only up to the people now to get that to happen. I think Trump, myself, could be pushed that direction if he had the force of people that cannot be ignorant. They have to understand the law and what's transpired and how the system works to get that done. And if they don't know the law, which is, basically stems from contract. That's the ultimate law of what we just basically went over. The societal law, love your neighbor as yourself. That's got to be the foundation for everything, and that comes from the Creator. Like I've said before, I haven't seen any insect or any other creation of Earth use anything as a slave. And getting back to slavery, it's unnatural. That's my point. There's no organism on Earth that I see that's enslaved something else. Yes, there's parasites, and then we have those. They're called. Well, I'll go into that. But people actually end up being parasites, and that's why socialism doesn't work. It's totally in opposition to the love of your neighbor as yourself rule. So there's where the problems start, and people operate off contract between each other. Like I said, the oldest treaty is on display at the United Nations. So these people do follow the law in that respect. Anyway, last quarter of the show's coming up. This is The Ultimate Remedy. You got another half hour to go. Stay tuned for this. After the station break, we'll be back.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Be evasive.
But that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
And Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia. FreedomSlips.com, the People Station.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Well, we're back. This is The Ultimate Remedy, the last segment of the show, the fourth quarter. Thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about People's Awareness Coalition and our purpose. We're a political movement. We do not participate in this system. We practice and study and practice rightful law instead of the legal system that they put in place. People, 99.9% of the population of America belong to the 14th Amendment to what I call a communist association. And, they can think what they want, but, like my book lays out, America's communist. And it has been, their program was completed about 50, 60 years ago. The Department of Education was the last icing on the cake, or the cherry on top of the sundae, which was implemented in the beginning of the 1970s. They took total control of that, and stupid programs such as Bill Gates, what was that, Common Core math, took a hold. And basically what I've determined is socialism it's a tool to allow the rich to get richer. And that's why Marx and a lot of communists, Marx said it, democracy leads to communism. But democracy is nothing but a code word for communism. People like Amy Goodwin use it, and of course a lot of the public uses it because that's what they've been taught. And democracy has basically a definition that's old, and most people, the system still isn't a pure democracy as the Federalists laid out in the Federalist Papers. But what's going on now is basically a mobocracy. A bunch of stupid people go out and vote for their favorite celebrity, TV celebrity is what it boils down to.
Well,
now, Go ahead,
well,
Nathan.
That's because they believe they're free.
Yeah. Well,
They
see,
believe
that's
they believe
sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, but they believe that's something that's of freedom. And when I sit here and I read the Justice Black quote that we just talked about on the last half hour, it just seems very interesting to me that Justice Black has to define a certain type of freedom. Therefore, if he's defining Republican freedom, and we're not walking through that door of Republican freedom as a U.S. citizen, and we have no ability to achieve that Republican freedom, what freedom are U.S. citizens encompassed by?
Yeah.
There has to be two different
the
types
lie,
of freedom.
Liberty isn't even freedom. I had to finally write a paper on that because I got sick of hearing liberty used interchangeably with freedom, and they're totally two different things.
That's just like how we got on this topic to begin with legal versus lawful. And I say that legality hides behind the color of law, where it sounds good and you can find common law, natural law in the legal code. I've found it. But it's the fact that you're letting natural law and the common law be governed by men who have reason to use it against you at their anytime they want, anytime their will is shows that they can make money off it, they're going to use anything they can against you.
That gets back to what I said, that socialism is just a dangling carrot to get people into being under the control of government so they can be used and taxed.
We learned that as tragedy, and now we're learning it as farce. Because you look at the Nazi Germany, how did they accomplish what they accomplished? Socialism. We're now doing the exact same things Nazi Germany did before they became Nazi Germany in World War II, but this time we're doing it under complete 100% farce. I don't even believe there's a virus.
No, well, there is, but it's been around. COVID's been around.
Right.
I saw some ads from Britain in the 70s. Again, Bruce, that has a program on in the morning here on Revolution Radio, found a ad for the COVID virus back in the 70s. So COVID's been around a long time, and the people that I've listened to is, I know nothing about that type of medical issue or things that do with health. So I depend on certain people, but the guy I listened to, he said that 80% of the people will not get COVID because there's a strain of it that's been out there that if you've gotten one of the strains, you won't even get the virus because you already have it or had it in some way, shape, or form. So there's 80% chance you won't even get sick with this strain that's going around now. And
See,
like we mentioned, you found a patent on a recent one that's very scary.
Yeah.
Why are they being allowed to patent a virus? That's why this system is so broken. Or another reason is the fox is guarding the hen house. The profiteers are the ones that are controlling the law, or the legal system, rather.
Yeah.
And people have dropped the ball. Again, when people get mad at the government, I go, don't get mad at the government. Go get mad at your dad or your parents. They didn't teach you. And that gets back to socialism. People have relied on government teaching them. And lo and behold, do they teach people law in school, or Americans? No. Geez, you wonder why that is. Maybe so they can be enslaved and jerked around? Is that maybe the reason?
They like it.
And they like it. It's, it's such a measure of Stockholm syndrome that's going on with Americans.
The 100th monkey principle.
Yeah, well, people ask me, and we talked about this today, and PAC is based, I based the whole PAC structure, now getting back to PAC, the whole PAC structure is based on the 100th monkey principle. And people criticize me for being close guarded with my work. And I do get donations from the people that aren't stupid. They understand the method behind what I do. I would turn, operations over to a state if I had enough people that were solid, like you and your parents, to get things done. But no, I haven't seen anyone hold that line in 20 years. So that's why PAC isn't where it should be. And I get blamed for it. And you can't, you can't get something done if it's not right. And a lot of people don't want to do it right. So they want to, like you said, Nathan, at the beginning of the program today, people like to mix and match stuff. It doesn't work that way, because just as Tim Pool pointed out in his rant or outbreak he had this last month, he said 10% of the leftists are getting away with this, while the rest of the 90% of America sits there and hides in their basement or they do nothing, because they've been programmed to shut their mouths while this Marxist system is maintaining itself right now. Like I referenced, communism was already installed 60 years ago. Now they're just putting they're putting maybe, like I said, advancing things to make things look like the so-called communists are taking over, but it's already done. So what they're doing is a Hegelian dialectic. They're, problem, reaction, solution. They're creating this scare that the socialists are taking over. They already did. They're bringing things back center now so they can maintain the system and keep people ignorant. And we're going into the age of Aquarius, where the millennials and whatever aren't going to know what the truth is, because they're following what they've been told to think. And Tim Pool again is one of them. I love the guy. He's very smart, but he's been misguided. And one thing he said this week in one of his broadcasts, I couldn't believe that he did it, but he says, well, I heard a long time ago that people were afraid of the Social Security number. And I go, that was only 25 years ago. You were maybe in diapers at that point. I think he's 30 something. He's your age, I think, Nathan.
Yeah.
But, this is all going on when you were watching video games on television or playing video games on the TV, which is another thing. All these millennials that have YouTube channels, they all have Star Wars on their walls and all this crap that's worthless. But yet they're experts on the current political system and what's going on. And this gets me back to why, Tim just floored me based on his attitude about the Social Security number. It's called solely cook froggy, and I was saying this years ago, and it's playing out today. I said I got rid of my Social Security number based on my mentor's material 25 years ago or more. It's been more than that. I haven't used the damn thing. And, of course, I perfected the what needed to be done in the year 1998 with this founding pack and doing several research projects that I did. But I said back 25 years ago, I go, if you're not willing to get rid of your Social Security number now and not and operate without it, you're going to take the chip. You're going to do whatever it takes to appease the powers that be when it happens, because the chips, kind of gone by the wayside at this point. They figured other ways to do it. The cell phone is one of them. I've seen that happen. So Tim doesn't even think it's an issue now, but it is. That was the slave, basically enslaved everyone during the Roosevelt reign in the 1930s, and basically makes people pay income tax. And of course, I go into that in my papers in my book. If anyone cares to read it, like I said last Friday, I'm not a dancing monkey. I'm not going to do what these guys do on YouTube. People have to read my material. A lot of it's out there for free. So anyway, Nathan, we kind of got sidetracked. Do you have anything to add? We got about 15, or not 15, but about 12 minutes left.
I mean, not so much anything just to expound upon what we've already went over, which is just the pack has to be a community for us, and for people to come and share information with one another openly and freely, because I don't know everything, you don't know everything, and that's everybody right. Who brings something to the table, that's a type of fellowship, and that person is spilling their individualities so other people can learn from their individualism that has happened in their lifetime. And I think being an individual and knowing yourself before you get into this will only make the community that much stronger, because you're already leading yourself. And if you're leading yourself, you're going to be good communal substance for the community to share information. Well, and that's what we don't have right now, LB, is we don't have anybody that's willing to set aside their American virtues or ideals and
their Marxism. They're not willing to set aside their Marxism.
Right.
And they have these, like Tim Pool, even. I'm sorry to keep mentioning him, but he doesn't even know what Marxism is. These people are clueless. And you found it. That's one thing that I'm upset about it. Hopefully you can get it off your hard drive. Do you want to brief the folks out there on what you found from 1907?
06.
06, I'm sorry. That totally is in line with what I've been saying for years.
I was reading the Family Law Act of 1906. And what it was they talked about it in their, I believe it was the thesis part of it, was they said that what they wanted to see was to create divorce as a business, so it would split a family into two. Instead of the purchasing power of just one family, now you have the purchasing power of two families. Which
Marxism.
Is completely, ingrained into Marxism. It's a cultural Marxism.
100 plus years ago.
And now we look at how rampant divorce is. I mean, of new marriages, 60% of them are dead in 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, it's gone to a small percentage of divorce to over half.
Right.
I mean, when you get married today, which I can attest to, My marriage, when I was married years ago, it was based on Marxism. It was based on economic expediency and free love.
Well, that's why I said
it wasn't based on spirituality or the need to procreate and have children. And that's the main, that's the old, even in the Roman system, that was the old reason for getting married, is to procreate and have a family. And that's what Marxism, just as you noted, and I've known this for a long time. I've got an article that some, I think he's a law professor out in California, that wrote something on the destruction of the family by Marx and Ingalls, Charles Ingalls. Was it Charles Ingalls or no? What was his name? Charles Ingalls. I think it was the guy in Little House of the Prairie. Ingalls and Marx, anyway. That's another interesting thing, and it backs up what I say about what I said about last hour. The Republicans, or the government, instituted the sickle of communism via the Department of Agriculture, and the industrialists are the ones that pushed it through. So, it kind of fits into the whole pattern of how communism works. The rich get richer is the basic rule. But
I mean, in my opinion, I don't believe there's a lawful marriage, LB. In today's day and age, there's not a lawful marriage being conducted. You might have to go to the Amish community to find one. Everybody's getting a license, which means they allow the state into their marriage. That means the state gets half of everything. And they own it all. They own your kids. They own your marriage. So how can everybody sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to go to church tomorrow. I'm going to be a Christian today, but I'm going to be a Marxist Luciferian tomorrow"? Huh. I don't know how that works. I really don't, people. I wish someone could enlighten me on that to be on both sides of the fence. Because marriage today is completely done under fraud. And it would be that God is looking at it as fraud. So...
Yep.
And that's something that I guarantee not many people want to choke down and swallow. But it's the truth. I mean, marriage is... Don't they consider marriage a secular union where the state owns everything?
Oh, yeah. If you want to go back to the Roman law, like I just mentioned a second ago or a minute ago, the reason Caesar got involved in marriages is when they became a empire. They started conquering different countries or peoples, and he had to step in because the custom and usage law of the time was regulating how people operated. And the same thing happened in America when they started issuing marriage licenses about 100 years ago. It was to allow blacks to marry whites because it wasn't the custom and usage law of America at the time. And the same thing with gays. That's why currently, gays is against the law. So the state has to issue licenses. The marriage license in America has been perverted by socialism. So a lot of people get married that are allowed to get married under the original common law that are, custom and usage law that was in America, get married for benefit. And I just kind of related that to my marriage. You get benefits. The government gives you benefits if you're involved in the commercial world. For example, if you're married, maybe you get a better rate on your insurance. So it's all commingled and messed up because of the commercial world that this communist system actually is run by. And of course the elite profit off everything.
I wonder if this...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wonder if this tidbit of information that we're sharing right now and talking about, if the Canadian who asked legal versus lawful, if this is helping understand that, because this is exactly what the difference is between a lawful marriage and a legal marriage. And there you have it, where
Yeah,
legality.
that very good. Thank you. That's a good example of lawful and legal.
Yeah, I tried.
I hope I didn't jump on you too soon. I got excited.
No, it's all right. No, you're good.
I like when my being a mentor. I like when my followers or student. I don't like to call you a follower, but a student gets something right on. You know.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. At least someone listens to me, right?
Well, hey, you're just parenting law.
Yeah, I haven't made anything up. You know, my work is all grounded in law. I didn't, you know, that's another thing I got mad at this last month. I heard someone on the station here. I don't know who it was. It was on a round table. Said my work's all theory. Really? Did you read the second section 2 of the second 14th Amendment, Nathan?
Oh yeah.
Do you think my work's theory?
Nope.
Nope, it's a fact. Sorry, you know, that's the reason this movement gets in nowhere. Too many know-it-alls out there, and no one working together. That's why I declared war on the movement 5 years ago. So I got tired of this. You know, basically the war is based on the same thing as the war on drugs. You know, it's meant to be detrimental to society or whatever the case may be. My war is based on the same reason. And unfortunately, I think it's going to end up being a big I told you so instead of having any backing based on making people get their heads out of their ass and do something about not working together, you know, and being egomaniacs and starting their own channels or whatever they're doing to divide everyone up. You know, like we said, 90% of the people aren't doing anything, but well, that same figure is going to apply to people on the internet or YouTube. 90% of what's being done is people copying other people's motivation of what to be told to think. And they're just putting a different spin on it. And that's why they started Facebook and Twitter to just divide and conquer. It's the rule of Sun Tzu from his Art of War book, the divide and conquer measure by the enemy or your adversary needs to be divided so you can conquer him. That's what social media was all about. And the internet for that matter.
Yeah.
And that's why I started or came out with the PAC Unification Project. And that's available on, the website or the paper I wrote about, 8 years ago already. And it basically it's only 5 pages of what needs to be done to stop this insanity. Of course, it goes on unnoticed and unshared. And most people don't pay attention to it. That's why I had to declare war to at least, make people take notice that they're screwing up.
Well, without the numbers, LB, we're never going to get the book served to Congress.
Right.
So we need numbers. I mean, if there was one person, if we could get 60,000 people to donate $1, we serve the book to Congress.
Oh, yeah.
That's enough to serve the book to Congress in a proper fashion, send you there with the book. You know darn well that'd be enough.
Yep, it's really sad, Our next project is going to deal with that, and I need help, or we need help to get that accomplished. And I'm not releasing it yet, but it's a fun one.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Well, you and I have talked about it, but
okay.
But I'm just not releasing it yet. It's in the works, and it should be released in the next 2 months.
Cool. Well, we need.
It's about unifying people. It's a different angle on how to do it. Because it takes a while to observe it. What I've determined is it took them about 10 years to thwart the work I put out. So it takes a little while to observe and come up with a combative measure to destroy the enemy. So, I've come up with something that's pretty good, and it we need to create a pack army for the social media to just hit it so people visit it. So it's all good. Well, thanks, Nathan. I know I called you at the last minute. I was going to have John on from Connecticut, but his power went out because of that dreaded hurricane that's going on. Anyway, thanks for joining us, folks. We're out of time. This is Revolution Radio, and this has been the Ultimate Remedy. Have a good week. We'll see you next week, and on Friday with Dare to Think Out Loud. Peace.